Hey guys, welcome to Sketchaday. I'm Spencer. If you have no idea what this is, welcome. We're just having fun and I'm drawing, and hopefully you're drawing too. Grab whatever you have, doesn't matter. We're just gonna have fun. Today I'll be using pencils and markers to finish up our tea kettle that we started. This is part 2 of my 2-part video. But just as a reminder, subscribe, turn on alerts, come say hi on Instagram at sketchaday.com, and be sure to sign up for my newsletter. So we're going to be continuing what we did before, working light until we get it right. Same thing with markers, but I'll talk a little bit about marker technique and some best practices that help me as I render things. So grab what you have, even if it's digital, and with that, let's get started. So we have our sketch here from last time, and I've picked out a few reds that I'm going to be using, and perhaps this yellow, we'll see. But I think I'll just focus on the reds. That being said, I've got a few here in a series. I've got our 27, 46, 14, and also 22. So with Copic markers, what I like to do, here they are. What I like to do is, if you look at the number on the marker, so let's say R, that's a letter, and then two numbers. The first number is essentially the hue or the color family, and the second number is going to be your value. So I know without even trying that these 3 markers will work well together because we have a 22, 24, and a 27. The 14, a little bit iffy. We can play with that for some lighting effects. I've just got a broader 27 here, and also the 46. If I need to go deeper in my value, I can use that. So we're going to start with R22. And I'm imagining that the body of this kettle is red. So what I like to do personally is just kind of outline the areas that I'm going to be applying marker to, and then apply my marker. Okay, so it's almost like I'm making my own coloring book guide here, or coloring guide rather. So just these areas that I know are going to be this lighter pink, and it's kind of a visual help for me, mental visual help, because in reality, I don't just magically stop at these lines. It just kind of helps denote where things need to be. Okay, so pick a light source. I'm going to pick top right. Typically works for me, so that means there's going to be a highlight on this side. Okay, so as I'm shading with my 24, also a pro tip here, if you are shading with these markers, they have a chisel tip. Let's see if it'll focus there, maybe not. But the tip is like a chisel, so as I'm applying my marker, I'm trying to align that chisel tip to the start and end of my lines. Now I'm leaving this a little streaky because I do want this to feel a little bit shiny of a tea kettle. Okay, and then on the top, light source is coming from the top right. So I'm just gonna isolate this area, shade in, shadow here, under this little section as well. And we have the beginnings of our rendering. Okay, so once again, light till we get it right. And you want to work with a marker paper that's going to withstand the marker that you're using. Also, if you do like using markers, it's probably a good idea to invest in some good marker paper, because it actually will preserve your markers a lot better than just using printer paper. Now, if I'm in a pinch, I use printer paper for my renderings, but I do prefer to use marker paper where possible. Okay, so now that I've used my 22, I'm going to jump up to my 24, which is right here. And now I can start to work on building my shadow core. Okay, shadow core, anywhere I may be picking up some artifact or I want to deepen the value to create essentially a gradient on this. I'm going to use this 24 to kind of pump the contrast a bit. Okay, just like that. And you are ultimately the creator, the communicator. So you get to decide how many streaky white areas you want to leave in there, or how intense things need to be. My suggestion to anyone doing markers or trying to render something always is draw from observation so that you can teach your brain kind of symbols and things that happen, so that when it does come time to apply that marker, you at least have some reference for how things might look, okay? So that's just a tip, something that's helped me, is just drawing from observation where possible. So in my sketchbooks, I do that quite a bit. All right, and we also have this face. I left it intentionally white for a bit because I didn't quite want to commit to that color right off the bat. Okay, so I'm switching to my 27 now. I feel like I'd have a little bit of a shadow from this spout, so I'm gonna add that in. Nice and contrasty. And the light is playing tricks on my eyes, the light for this video, so bear with me here. But one thing I do like to do is I kind of like to squint as I'm rendering, because that'll kind of help me see where I need to add some contrast. And if you don't believe me, just try it and you'll see what I mean. But it kind of eliminates the complexity of what you're looking at or detail, and then helps you focus on just the value and if you have the right blends in place, okay? Went a little bit too dark with that one. I wanted to do the 24, but I think we'll be okay. All right, so we've got our highlight through there. And because I want to boost the contrast a bit, I'm going to use this R46. So just in the areas where there's some shadow core or perhaps some sort of artifact in these reflections, I'm going to boost my reds with this red 46 just a little bit. Okay. And again, if you're using a good marker paper, you can really kind of lay in with the ink. And that's going to help you create some nice blends as you go, as you can see. So there we have some nice reflections. Maybe there's some reflected light on this side of the drawing as well. And I'm coming back with my R22 here. I'm just gonna add a little bit of gradient onto the spout, and then I'm gonna hit it with, let's check out this 14. Maybe a little bit of this 14 actually. Kind of blend these together. Give it just a little bit of orange hue here and there, just to kind of help with those blends, like so. And on the top as well, I'm going to take this R24 and just boost a little bit of the contrast in some of these areas and reflections. And then take my 27 as well, because I'm imagining there's a little bit of curvature to the top, ever so slight. Get in some of these shadows as well. Just remember, if you're trying to show depth, we want to do lightest lights against your darkest darks. So if that means even coming back in with a bit of pencil, just to help boost the contrast, that's something you can do as well on your drawings. All right, so we're almost done with the red here. On the bottom, because I imagine this is casting a little bit of a shadow, I'm going to take this R46 and just really lay into this area, and then come back with the 27 just to make sure we're at parity on the color family a bit more, because this 46 tends to be a little bit bluer than the other color family I was using. Okay, so back with the 27. If you work quickly enough, the ink is still alive, so to speak, awake, and you can actually come back in and get some good blends that way. All right, so 27, just want to hit this base a little bit. And you can kind of see how I'm working, hopefully anyways, where I'm jumping between values. So, 24 is lighter than 27, but then I may want to come back even with the 22 here, kind of scrub the paper a little bit and get a better blend. Okay, so you kind of have to strategically work back and forth a bit with these markers as you go. All right, so for the base, I'm using some new markers here. Actually, they're called Motica markers. And as always, I'm gonna work light until I get it right. Looks like I'm missing my CG3, so we'll use 2, 4, and 6 here, just on this base. So we'll start with 2, and on the base, I want to show that it's rounded, okay? So I'll start by kind of mapping out that shadow core, but then we'll just shade in. It's probably kind of more of a matte feel, but we do want to, if you notice, I'm trying to align where the shadows fall with the shadows on the top, because it's almost like a continuation of the form. And I want to make sure that's carried through, right? Okay, so I've got that gray, and then I'm going to use this gray as well for this little charging element on the bottom, like so. Now this is my CG2. These markers seem to run a little bit darker, and they have the ability to build up a bit more than Copic markers, so you might even be able to get away with using 2 or so on something like this. But the idea here, again, is to work light until we get it right, and then we can commit to the tone, shading, style, whatever it is you're kind of after. All right, so as I'm shading this, I'm trying to stay away from the edge just a little bit because there's probably some reflected light happening. I'm going to switch back to my 2 and finish out this gradient right there. And I'm going to give that a second to dry. And while that's drying, let's work on the inside. So I have this very faint line that is denoting the backside of the kettle. So I'm going to shade this in nice and dark. Because let's say it's, empty or whatever. So we're going to leave that and come back with a little bit darker as well, just to capture that. And then on the inside, I can now start shading a bit, different direction, but I just want to show, hey, there's an inside to this, right? While that's drying, we'll work on our cable. Okay. Shade it in. This is the lightest marker. Shade this in first. Get the other side, and then boost that shadow core. The shadow core is going to help you. It's going to help you show the 3-dimensionality of your marker rendering. I think I'm also going to release this video as a time lapse. I know some of you like to blaze through the videos and not sit through them. So if you prefer a time lapse, I will have that available for you as well. So keep an eye out for that. All right, a couple other things. Just going to get a bit more contrast on the bottom. Like so, on the inside here as well. So I'm using a CG7, this Motica brand of marker. They're actually pretty affordable too, so if you just want like a kind of a general purpose marker, I think they're actually pretty great. If that's something you want to use like on printer paper, so you're not using your more expensive markers. Definitely check them out. All right, so we got our shadow on this base. I want a little bit more shadowing, so with my CG4 here, just gonna introduce some shadow like so, just like that. Pump that shadow core, and just keep it fresh and light. Okay, it's not really doing a traditional marker rendering per se, so just trying to keep it fresh. This is a little bit of a reflection of what's above happening in this base, and I'm trying to do that with this marker. But if I need to boost it, I'll just use some pencil. Maybe a little bit of reflected light on this charging element as well. And now that the top's dry, we can even hit that spot again on the inside with some more CG7, just like so. And like I said, I wanted to include some tick marks for water level. So I'm just going to add those just with this darker marker. Okay, just like that. All right, so at this point, I have 3 or 4 Prismacolor pencils left over that are dark. So now, for this shadow, I'm just gonna shade over the marker ever so slightly. I don't wanna overdo it. This is kind of what I was talking about where, if I need to boost the contrast in a specific area or increase my shadowing, just shading over your marker with your pencil a little bit is a great way to do that. Okay, I can even do that on this red just a little bit. Same on the top here if I'm picking up any additional artifacts in the scene. You might be wondering what I mean by artifact. What I mean is if there's something in this environment that is present, chances are you're going to pick up a little bit of that in the reflections rather on the object. So that's kind of what I'm just trying to do there. Okay, there's probably a lot more I could do here, but I'm going to wrap it up just a little bit. It's always hard to know when to stop and how much to do on these drawings. And that's just a skill that you develop over time, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. So we'll just do a couple little finishing touches here, some shading on the bottom and on my cable. I want this to seem kind of rough, so I'm just going to do these squiggle shadings for the shadow core, like so, and there you go. So that's probably where I would call it good on this sketch. Maybe adding a bit of a background might help, maybe some black or something like that. So how about we just do that real quick? So a little bit of black. Intentionally spacing off the tea kettle because I want the tea kettle to pop off the background a bit. So small space. You could also do that with white paint, whiteout, or a white marker if you have that available. Just leaving that. Okay, we're gonna end right about there. And just trying to measure here. Okay, right about there. All right, and let's just shade this in. I'm using a Copic wide marker. If you've never seen one, check them out. It's just a little wider so you can fill in some bigger spaces if you need to. And then just use the side to finish up our background. All right, and as always, sign your work. 2020, baby. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys. That's our completed tea kettle sketch. hopefully you're able to pick up some useful information here and you can apply this to other things that you're working on. We'll be back again this week with more videos and next week and so on. I'm just excited that you're here and you're watching this. Be sure to turn on alerts, subscribe, come find me on Instagram, and sign up for my newsletter. All that information is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Sketch-A-Day.